Okay, so I think my whole video just disappeared. And it's kind of funny because the whole topic of the video is not feeling sorry for myself. And I feel like this is just another obstacle to overcome, and my internet is not the greatest. But you know what? I can I can change that if I want to. I can change that. So anyway, so I was watching a video um, on Homeless to Harvard, and this girl who says that she uh, isn't angry at her parents because she realizes they offered to her what they had. They couldn't give to her what they didn't have themselves. And it made me realize that I haven't fully embraced that in the case of my parents. And the reality is that in the grand scheme of things, they made a lot of mistakes that I feel like I would not want to do, or I feel like are really bad. But realistically, we are all human, and I guess that's the spiritual view for me on forgiveness, is that I'm no better than anyone else. We are all human. We all make mistakes. Only God is able to judge us and say, yeah. And then the other thing I was thinking about is that how when I speak about my parents, the things I choose to say are not things that would reflect someone who's fully forgiven their parents. And also sometimes I will just randomly come up with stories about them when it's not really in context. It's almost like I need to be heard. I need people to know what I've been through. I need people to know what I've faced because it seems it's so not normal. Now I realize that it's not normal. But I think it's more than that, more than wanting people to realize how far from normal it is. I think I also want people to, I think it's part of my story, my present story, and I know that it doesn't have to be. And it's also this desire for people to, I think, feel sorry for me in a way, because why else would I need them to know all the bad things in my parenting? Why not share the good things? And why do I share in a way to make people see like, wow, look how bad they are? Can you believe that? And the reality is like I thought I'd forgiven them, and I'm realizing forgiveness is like layers, and maybe I'll never be done forgiving them. But one thing I know is that I want to be able to move on with my life, and I feel like any unforgiveness holds me back. Any excuses I use hold me back. Anything I use as a crutch is holding me back. And I think I do have this tendency to feel sorry for myself. And the reason for that is I feel a loss. I feel like because of my parents, how they raised me, there is a loss in my life. When I went to school in Kentucky, and I lost supports of, my high school friends, my community, um, things fell apart for me. And I feel like, you know what? I felt like if I was from a family who was more loving and supportive, like, that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have had to deal with that. And I feel that loss of this like ideal childhood, this ideal family love to fall back on. And I live alone right now. I don't have any super close friends. I have my boyfriend, which I'm so grateful for. But I still haven't found that super loving, supportive atmosphere. And I think part of that is that I hold on to that loss, and I don't allow myself to make that be true today, right now. And And I think it's other things too. It's hard opening up and trusting people when you felt a lot of pain in your life. But basically, when I can forgive my parents and realize um, that I don't need to use that loss as a crutch, because I actually can, at any moment, I can find that love within myself. I can choose to stop those tapes, to stop looking back at that loss, and I can see in front of me what opportunities I have to create that loving atmosphere around me. It would probably be easier if those default tapes, that default um, identity, everything about my childhood was this amazingly loving, perfect, childhood to fall back on. That would be awesome. But what I'm realizing is that, first of all, it's not realistic for anyone. No one is a perfect parent. But also I'm realizing that it's only a loss because I let it be. I'm not at a disadvantage. It might be a little bit harder, but then there's a positive in that. If something is harder, then I can really understand it more, because I'm really having to find that support, and I can help someone else in that, because I'm not the only one who deals with that. So basically, that's a little bit what I'm thinking about in forgiveness, is being able to forgive someone because they're not my crutch, because even though they did what they did, it doesn't have to influence me today. I don't have to feel sorry for myself, because I know another way. I have a great relationship. Well, I shouldn't say great, but I know I can choose to believe that I am loved. I can choose to believe that that I can trust people, that they're good people, and all these things I can choose, and I don't have to fall back on that loss. Because I have so much to gain moving forward, and yeah. So basically, that's it in a nutshell. Is what I've been thinking about, and how if something's only a loss. It was a loss for me when I was young, when I didn't know better, right? But now I know better, and I can choose other things for myself. I could choose to find that support elsewhere. It's not as easy as if it was in your subconscious, if it was in your upbringing, and it's just natural to feel loved, to have that support. And I do miss that support, but even that I can create right now. It's never too late to create it. And I'm not going to lie, that's hard for me. It's hard for me trusting people. And I wish I had that support, and I do have it. I have a great older sister that I really trust, and I have a great relationship with her. It's not perfect, but I'm so grateful for that. And a younger sister that I love too, but we don't have that same closeness yet. Anyway, so it is hard for me to create that support, but it's possible. And it's something that begins with just creating inside of me this atmosphere of love, and not of self-pity, or it's really one of believing that all things are possible for me, and just trusting that I can move forward, and forgiving my parents, because they forgiving them and letting go. I would say more letting go of those things. I think I've forgiven them. I think I just haven't let go. Maybe that's the same thing as not forgiving. But I can let go because I have so much to look ahead to. And I can let go because it doesn't hold what they did. It might make things harder. It might influence um, it might influence me, and I might have to make a lot of times conscious choices where it's like, okay, I can fall back into this default way of thinking, or I can look ahead and take and note and hold on to what I know will be more freeing for me to believe, what I know will help set me free, and just making those choices, and realizing that no matter what they did to me, no matter how they treated me, um, I don't have to let that affect who I am. The beauty about how we're made, and especially when we grow up and become adults, is that we have choices. Just because I'm just giving an example, your mom's was an alcoholic and your mom's mom was an alcoholic, it doesn't mean you have to be. Maybe everything in your life was set up that you would become like. Maybe you lacked everything great, and like that girl, you were homeless. But we all can create a future for ourselves, or at least beliefs for ourselves that are not based on our parents or their decisions. And I think that's what makes forgiveness easier, is realizing that it's not so bad of a loss as we think it may be. It's the loss of our childhood, maybe a loss of something growing up, but it's not the loss of your future. And that's what I really want to focus on, is taking responsibility and not letting that loss, not seeing it as a loss in the future. Being able to forgive them, because I am consciously choosing a different future, and I don't have to let any of those stories or ways that they brought me influence how I feel about myself today and the future that I choose for myself. So, anyway, I think that's all I'm going to say for now. But, yeah, thanks for listening.